great players, they have a great organization, and you tell them one thing, baby.
What is good, Raider Nation? It's your boy Raider Alex back with yet another video for you guys. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raiders related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Also make sure to hit that post notification bell, that way you get notified every time I post a video just like this one. But that being said, let's jump right into the topic of this video. The NFL draft is exactly 8 days away, and the Raiders will very likely be looking into drafting a quarterback with the void of a young QB on this roster. We know we have a starting level bridge gap quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, but more than likely we will also look into drafting a young guy to potentially be the long-term future at the quarterback position. And now the rumors and speculations have been back and forth throughout these past couple weeks on whether or not the Raiders are going to trade up and whether or not they're considering drafting the biggest boomer bust quarterback prospect in Florida's quarterback Anthony Richardson. For a lot of people, the general consensus has been that Bryce Young and CJ Stroud are the top two quarterbacks in this year's draft, and that Florida's Anthony Richardson is the third best quarterback prospect, and some have even speculated that this may be how the Raiders front office views this quarterback class as well. Reportedly, the meeting went very well between the Raiders and Anthony Richardson, and our general manager Dave Ziegler was very impressed. But that could just be a smokescreen to help drive up the overall demand and intrigue for Anthony Richardson if he ends up falling to number 7. And according to Pro Football Network's Tony Pauline, he suggests the fact that the Raiders' third quarterback on the board after CJ Stroud and Bryce Young is instead Hendon Hooker and not Anthony Richardson. Me personally, I do like Hendon Hooker as a quarterback prospect more than Anthony Richardson, but I will say Anthony Richardson does have a higher ceiling and potential than Hendon Hooker provides, especially coming off of that ACL injury. And in terms of his injury, it is said that he is ahead of schedule in his recovery. Overall, Hooker is considered to be one of the best prospects in the draft in terms of character and his work ethic. Now, a couple things I do want to mention with the possibility of drafting Hendon Hooker, and this article also mentions this, and it's the fact of where the Raiders will end up drafting Hendon Hooker if they end up doing so. A lot of people think that we can get him in the second round, and as this article states, and I completely agree with this thought process, I do not think he will make it to our second round pick at number 38. So if the Raiders want Hendon Hooker, then more than likely you will have to trade into the late first round to get him. I think a lot of teams are going to want that 5th-year option available for Hendon Hooker. And luckily enough for the Raiders, draft picks are really not a huge issue for us as we have so many in this year's NFL draft. And the Raiders could also be in the market for trading out of that number 7th overall pick to acquire even more draft capital. So look, if they really like Hendon Hooker, then that's definitely a very reasonable possibility. But another thing that we have to consider is how this quarterback demand will be for this year in the draft and how many quarterbacks could end up going in the top 10. That's a legit possibility. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis could all go early, and if that happens, the next quarterback in line would for sure be Hendon Hooker, and the Tennessee Titans at number 11 could also be in the market for a young quarterback, and Hendon Hooker also played at the University of Tennessee, and so that's another factor to consider. How many quarterbacks will end up going early in this year's draft in the top 10? But overall, with Hendon Hooker, there's a lot to like from Hendon Hooker. He's got a great frame for an NFL quarterback, listed at 6'4", 218 pounds. He's overall just a great athlete and an overall very impressive runner. He's great with his accuracy in terms of short, quick passes, but he most definitely does have some inconsistencies when it comes to throwing the ball down the field. His footwork could definitely use some work. He has a fumbling issue as well. And lastly, I feel like he's a player that really relies heavily on his athleticism to be effective, with him being 25 years of age and coming off of an ACL injury. If that affects his athleticism coming into the National Football League, then he could become just an overall very limited player. And I understand tearing your ACL isn't what it used to be 10 years ago, but at the same time, I mean, I know he's going to recover from that injury, but will it affect his athleticism? I hope not, because I think it's going to be a vital part of his game. Also, I noticed when he runs, he needs to keep his eyes down the field and not always just rely on his legs. In the National Football League, he will need to learn to avoid hits and slide when necessary. And lastly, another big question mark behind Hendon Hooker, besides his age and the injury, is the fact of whether or not he's a legit quarterback prospect, or is he a product of a gimmicky offensive system ran at Tennessee? At Tennessee, they run a more spread type of offense that really relies heavily on yards after the catch. If you watch this tape, he does have a lot of throws that were at or behind the line of scrimmage. As I said, they rely heavily on those yards after the catch. He definitely had some accuracy issues throwing the ball down the field, so that's something to keep in mind as well. So with Hendon Hooker, in my opinion, he is most definitely not a perfect quarterback prospect, and he will definitely need to develop his game quite a bit once he gets into the league. But luckily for the Raiders, we don't necessarily need a rookie quarterback to start for us week 1. We do have Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy who we can at least depend on for a year. But Raider Nation, let me know what you guys think. Do you think Hendon Hooker is the 3rd quarterback on the Raiders draft board? And do you guys want the Raiders to go ahead and draft Hendon Hooker in this year's NFL draft? Let me know down below. With that being said, that is all for you guys in today's video. Anybody that's new to the channel, you guys love Raiders related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.